Hello everyone, welcome back to the Benchwarmers Podcast. In this week's episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Notts County all-time record goal scorer, Les BRADD. Les, how are you?
I'm feeling quite a little bit tired today, Gabriel. Yesterday was the first day back for golf and went to do 18 holes. I hadn't played for over 3 months, so I'm feeling it a little bit this morning. I've just completed a building project at the back of the house, so I've been a bit active just lately.
No, I didn't know you were into golf as well. My brother literally played yesterday as well because of obviously coronavirus and it being stopped for a while. Obviously, Les, you're the all-time record goal scorer for Notts County. So we'll get onto that in a second. But I think we'll start off where it all began, Earl Sterndale in non-league. Obviously, you think most players usually nowadays, anyways, come through sort of these big club academies if they're going to go on to have a real successful career like you did. But you actually came through the non-league system. So at 17 years old, how did you find it adapting to sort of the style of playing non-league?
Well, if I can go a little bit before that, I was born and bred in a place called Buxton. Earl Sterndale was 4 miles outside of Buxton. And I grew up where there was no coaching. Basically, at school, when it came to games lesson and it was football, the teacher would say, right, you play in that position, you play in that position. So virtually every week I was playing goalkeeper through to left winger. And that was my sort of upbringing. Then I got to secondary school. It got probably a little bit more advanced than what I've just described, but still no proper coaching. And at the age of 15, I came home from school one day and my mum said, I've got you a job. You're leaving school. You're going to become an apprentice motor mechanic. Which I did, and they wouldn't let me have Saturday afternoons off to play football, which was the only time football was played in Buxton in those days. So I think after about a year, I decided I couldn't put up with it any longer. I missed my football, and a friend said, well, if you come and sign for us, Earl Sterndale, we'll get you fixed up with another job, which they did, and I went working as a welder in a quarry. So I joined Earl Sterndale, and it was a team that romped the Fairfield and District League by, I think they scored way over 100 points. I played on the left wing as a young 17-year-old, scored 35 goals that season.
Oh, wow.
Our centre forward scored 70 goals that season. So that's the sort of level that we were playing at. Yeah. But it was while I was playing one of those games against a team called Chinley that I got a tap on the shoulder at half time. And this guy said to me, I'm a big friend of the manager of Rotherham United. Would you like to go for a trial? And snapped his hand off. And he picked me up on the Saturday and drove me up to Barnsley, where I had a trial playing against Barnsley youth team. And probably for the first time in my life, I wore the number 9 shirt, and I did okay. We drew 1-1, and I managed to score the goal. And they promoted me then into the reserve team at Rotherham. My first match was against a Sunderland team that contained an Irish international centre-half by the name of Charlie Hurley. And he let me know what being a professional footballer was all about. Yeah. I got kicked around a little, but it was most enjoyable. Between then and the end of the season, I played 12 matches and scored 8 goals in the reserves. And the manager of Rotherham United called me to say that he would like to offer me a contract. He felt that I was a very raw player that needed lots of coaching, but he saw something in me that he thought would benefit me becoming a professional and benefit Rotherham United. At the end of that season, he left and went to America coaching, so I was in there. And before I got any coaching, I'm pulled into the first team. The Rotherham centre forward at the start of the season, John Galley, was recovering from a cartilage operation that he'd had in the summer.
Okay.
And I got drafted into the first team, made my debut at Villa Park with 20,000 people there. We lost that game 3-0. I kept my place for the next game, which was a League Cup fixture away at Notts County Football Club.
Yeah.
And I scored the winning goal for Rotherham in a 1-0 win. Dave Watson, who went on to become the Sunderland centre-half, he was marking me. And then I had 2 more games in the league with Rotherham against Derby County and QPR. And following the QPR game, the centre forward John Galley, who was recovering from the operation, was fit again, and he was back in the team. And the club got a call from Notts County to say they were very interested in signing me. Was I ready to go? And I just wanted to play football. So the manager and the chairman from Notts County came over to see me, and that was it. I signed up and left.
You think your goal against Notts County probably influenced that?
Absolutely, 100%. It was a throw-in, really, down by the touchline that I managed to deceive Dave Watson, turned him, and from about 25 yards out, just hit it, and it flew into the top corner. So it was a great way to get off the mark scoring goals. But definitely that would have influenced them, yes. Yeah,
so you joined Notts County, who at the time were in Division 4. How did you find it then, sort of adapting to professional football as a usual starter in the club?
It was very tough. We had a manager by the name of Billy Gray, who himself was a very good professional player, won an FA Cup winners' medal with Nottingham Forest, played with lots of good players. And generally, in those days, managers wouldn't be doing a lot of coaching. They would be buying in players and saying, right, you go and play there, you go and play there, and letting you get on with it. So initially, it was rather tough because, as I said, I hadn't experienced too much coaching. I was playing in a position centre forward that hadn't had too many games in. So it was a little difficult settling down. And it wasn't really until the following year when we had a new manager by the name of Jimmy Sirell, who'd made quite a name for himself, particularly at Brentford, with his style of management and coaching. He was, if you can imagine that in 1966, England won the World Cup and played with a 4-4-2 system, and that was new to football. Prior to that, football had always been about 2 wingers, 2 centre forwards inside. And coaching sort of was starting out in the game. Jimmy Sirell, as I say, had spent or had great experience at Brentford, and he'd taken them into a high position in the league. And he spent a lot of time going over to Holland, learning coaching techniques with a top coach over there by the name of Willie Curver. So it was he who on the training ground, through playing football matches, got every single player fully aware of what being a professional footballer meant, and what it meant in each position, what your job was in each position. It wasn't just going out there playing football. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So what would you say your relationship was like then with Jimmy Sirell? Because obviously he managed you for so many years.
What was it? Sorry, what would you say about Jimmy?
What was your relationship like with
him? Jimmy was excellent with everybody. He had a belief that footballers were like horses. There were race horses and there were thoroughbreds. The race horses you could whip and kick, i.e. you could give them a right good bollocking whatever you wanted to. And then there was some excellent players whose thoroughbreds, you couldn't tell them off, else they might go and sulk. So you had to treat them nicely. He had a captain by the name of Don Masson, who he never told off. He was his blue-eyed boy. He was his thoroughbred.
Talking of Don Masson, then obviously he came into that season. I believe that you came in. I could run about that, but he was obviously a very good player.
He came in the following year.
Oh, okay.
I joined 67. He came in 68.
Yeah, well, he went on to make over 400 odd appearances for the club. How good of a player was he to play alongside?
Don was, he came down to the 4th division and he was good enough to play in the top division.
Oh, wow.
When he came and joined us, after each training session, he would go out and practice free kicks. He'd go out and practice corners, penalties. And we hadn't seen any of that before.
No.
He was very critical of all the players if they didn't do things right. And we couldn't understand why he was, why he dropped down to the level that we were playing at. He's recently written a book and he apologizes to everybody in that book. But he was a horrible character at that time. And we learned afterwards that the players at Middlesbrough, which is the club he came from, got together and they've gone and give the owner of the club an ultimatum and get him out or else we want to leave. So that was Don. He wasn't the best of characters, but he was a top player.
Yeah. And then obviously you won the season. You won your first title, I believe, in the 1970/71 season by 9 points. For you personally, then, how great of an achievement was this to win your first piece of silverware?
I think Jimmy had joined in the November, and we was down near the bottom of the league, and he'd taken us up to 7th. We nearly, in those days, there were no playoffs. It was first and second club got promoted. And then he worked really hard in the summer months. The squad was together, the squad 15 players. And we didn't start particularly brightly, but it started to roll. And we started winning matches at home. Then we started drawing matches away to go with it. And then we started winning matches away. And once that each player's got that mentality, you don't believe that you're going to lose a game. And we rolled on tremendously. So it was a great feeling where you had a group of players, couldn't wait for each match, felt they were going out there winning every game, no matter who we played, whether we're in a cup game with teams in higher divisions. We felt we could beat anybody. And it's something you don't want to lose when you've got hold of that.
Yeah, and once you got your promotion, then you got to division, the 3rd division. Sorry, I keep forgetting what it's all called. But you finished 4th in that season, which obviously is a great achievement because you've just got up and you've nearly even got back-to-back promotions. You got 21 goals that season. So what changed for you in that year? Because obviously I believe that this was your best goal scoring season for Notts County so far in your career. So what changed for you? Was it the players around you, or was it just your sort of motivation?
2 things. One, players around me. We had a player playing up front who I played alongside called Tony Haitley. To the younger football supporters, you probably remember his son Mark Haitley, who played for Rangers. Tony, I think he had 4 £100,000 moves in the late 60s, early 70s, probably equate to 50 or £100 moves in these days. He went to Liverpool, went to Chelsea. He scored bags of goals and he was a great header of a ball. And he came to Notts County, and the role that he had was my role, which was a far post player, getting on the far post, making themselves available for crossers to either nod back across the goal or finish off if it was more advantageous to do that. So that season that you're talking about, when I got the 2021 league goals, I was playing feeding off of Tony. And as I say, the rest of the time I was the guy on the far post that got up there and nodded balls down to my playing partner who was on the other side, or to the midfield lad who was on the edge of the box. So that's the reason why the goals came in that season. Interestingly enough, that season followed our promotion, which we'll be celebrating 50 years it is this May since that first promotion. And then the next season we just missed out. We finished Where did we finish? Was it fifth or
fourth?
Fourth, with a number of points, which the following season we were 3 or 4 points less than that, but got promotion.
Oh wow!
So we actually played better that following season than we did the next year when we got promoted into the second division, or the championship as it's called now.
And obviously that promotion to the second division, and he'll call it championship then, was another great achievement for your career. So how different was it then compared to, obviously you've been with Notts County in Division 4, you're now in Division 2 playing against some much better teams. How different was it for you? Did you find it more difficult, or did you kind of just I don't know, sort of adapt to it?
I think we adapted quite better quality players, more consistent, better quality players. You quite often people will look at football matches and they'll look at non-league and they'll see a player and they say, well, he could play at whatever level. You move up a division and they say the same about them, but what happens is they're not as consistent as the players that play in the Premiership. You've got to be performing virtually every match to play in the Premiership, and as you drop down a level, the number of matches that they perform, it drops down with it. So yes, it was tougher. It was very physical football in those days. It's not quite the same so much now. I was talking to Sam Allardyce not too long ago, and he was telling me that he coaches centre halves now to stay on the feet and hold, not tackle, else they're likely to give away a free kick and get a yellow card, which could lead to a sending off. In the days that I played, you could touch it once, control it once, then you had to lay it off. If you had another touch, it's likely you're going to get whacked from behind. You'd be on your backside. So yeah, different game.
Yeah, very, very different. In that season as well, you also reached the League Cup quarter final. You beat the likes of Southampton, Stoke, Everton. Was this the furthest you've gone in the cup?
We did well in the League Cup. We had the successful runs like you just picked out. Never too well in the FA Cup. We also had another tremendous victory, and that was at Ellen Road. We beat Leeds United, the top Leeds United team in those days. You know, with the Bremners and those. We went up there and we won 1-0, and I would say that's the greatest achievement ever in my playing career. So no, we didn't really get successful FA Cup runs. We had 2 or 3 good League Cup runs. We got to the quarter final of the League Cup, Newcastle away, and we lost out to a Malcolm McDonald goal. I had a great chance to equalise and didn't take it late on in the game to get a replay, but that was probably as near as we got during my playing career. I know they had a bit more success under Neil Warnock later on, but no, we did all right for ourselves. We had some good games and challenged ourselves to see how far we'd come. And we were able to compete, and we were no easy rollover for anybody. Well, except for one match, we went to Derby County when Brian Clough was manager there, and we lost 6-0. So we got a bit of a drubbing that time in the FA Cup.
And I guess you good form in the cup also got you linked with some top flight clubs. Reportedly, anyways, Coventry City and West Brom are both interesting you. Would you ever have considered taking that step into the top division, or were you perhaps just more focused on making a legacy at Notts County?
I never got to hear of those two clubs. I know after Jimmy Sirell left and Ronnie Fenton became manager, he told me that following season that the club had turned down a 105,000 bid from West Brom. They also told me that there was an interest from Coventry. It never happened. In the days that I played, once you signed the contract for a club, you were, shall we say, at that club until they wanted rid of you. There was no free, even though your contract had finished, you weren't free to go and leave. And basically the club would say, this is what we're paying you next year. If you said, well, I'm not going to have that, I'm not going to sign it, or just say, oh, they would say to you, well, we're keeping your registration, you'll stay on your own money. And there's nothing you could do about it. You could go and work for a living, but you couldn't go and play football anywhere else.
Yeah. Do you think you would have been able to play at the top flight?
Would I have been able to play?
In terms of quality?
I would have loved to have had the chance to play at the top flight, definitely. Another challenge, I believe that I could have played there and been an influence. Jimmy Sirell taught me about the position that I played and what I needed to do, and the important things being a danger in that penalty box, creating havoc in there, causing upsets to defenders, scoring goals. And I think I could have done that at the top level as well.
Sort of sticking on with your time at Notts County, then, a player that you played alongside was Mick Vinter, who I believe was another striker at the club, and a really prolific one as well with that. I forgot his name, but you mentioned another striker earlier on who obviously was a really good player. I've completely forgotten his name.
Tony Haley.
Yeah, Tony Haley, that's it. So you played alongside Tony Haley, Mick Vinter. Do you find it works better for you when you're playing alongside a striker as good as you?
It's having different qualities. In the days that I played, Jimmy Sirell, we were set up with two strikers, two wingers, and the strikers worked together, one dropping, the other one running in at the back. And so he was building relationships to know what each were going to do. And I had several relationships with Richie Barker, Barry Butling, Tony Haley, Mick Vinter, John Sims, all played alongside them all in my time at Notts County. So it's important to work on the training ground and build those relationships. It just doesn't happen. It comes through working hard and, before the game.
Yeah, definitely. A bit of a broad question this, but what would you say your favourite Notts County memory is?
My favourite memory is not about goal scoring. I scored 200 goals in my career, but my favourite memory is going up to Leeds United, and they were a team top of the first division or Premiership, whatever you want to call it now, and they were beating everybody. And so I can remember speaking to supporters before the match, and they said, "Try and keep it down to 5," and it was. Just incredible. We went up there and what was so key in that the game finished 1-0, and as we walked off the pitch, Norman Hunter and Billy Bremner were stood near the tunnel, and I thought it was going to be trouble. And they stood there, and as we came off, they shook our hands and said, "Congratulations, you've won on merit. You've been better than us tonight." And then when we went into the dressing room, the manager also did the same thing. And I thought that was top, to congratulate us. It couldn't have been, they must have been feeling really down to have been beaten by a club, Little Notts County, a division below. But no, that was the greatest memory for me. But lots of games that spring to mind where over the years that have I had a great career in football and played with really good groups of players as well. 18 years my career, no relegation, so no real unpleasant disappointments along the way. Disappointment probably in a match where we wanted to get further in the cup, but other than that, no, I was very happy with my career.
Definitely. Maybe another disappointment in that 6-0 defeat, but sorry, I had to bring it up. So what I also want to do, because I know that you're part of the Magpie Circle podcast as well, where you talk about Notts County with Paul Mace, but I want to just get some of your thoughts on the current Notts County situation and what's going on in the club. Starting off then with new manager Ian Birchnell. When he was first appointed, I did a bit of a background check of him, and I think he's a fantastic appointment for the club. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, firstly, the owners of Notts County Football Club, and they've been in charge now for 18 months, they have a business, a football data business.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you're aware of that. Their business, it can find you stats on players. I can't remember how many countries, but all over Europe, as well as England. We use that data to sign a player called Cal Roberts from Blythe Spartans.
Oh yeah.
I'm also an ambassador for Notts County, and on match days, this is prior to the lockdown, I visit the hospitality rooms, and I have a walk round and talk to the various guests in there.
Yeah.
And I can remember one match just before the lockdown, there was a table with 10 chaps on there, and I hadn't seen them before. And I walked up to the table, asked them if they were Notts County fans. They said they weren't, but they said they worked for the owners of the club. And each one of those gentlemen on that table had been responsible for having an input in the data collected on Cal Roberts that enabled Notts County to sign him. So the business goes into great depth. It's not just send and watch a player once or twice. There's a lot of games watched, collecting whatever data they want. So that's a background to the owners. It's very similar to the operations at Barnsley Football Club and at Brentford Football Club. So I would assume also they collect data on managers and head coaches, and they have followed in, as you might have checked out in your studies, he's a lot of background with his coaching skills over in Scandinavia. Strangely, he didn't start off as a footballer. I don't know how football's come into it. I've yet to speak to him, so I'd like to have a chat. But he's developed his coaching skills abroad, and I think the owners have followed him, and they feel that he is the right man to take Notts County forward. Whether that can happen with promotion this season, because he is limited for time on working with the players, bearing in mind there's a match on Saturday midweek virtually through till right the way through till June. So it's going to be very difficult to make any changes in the setup of the team. But I'm very interested, and obviously being a supporter of the club as well, I wish him all the best and in getting promotion this season.
And you spoke briefly then of Carl Roberts. I know how he's sort of a fan favourite at Notts County. Have you been watching the games this season on? I don't know how Notts County stream it in non-league, but have you been able to watch the games this season?
Yeah, I've watched virtually all of the home games. I did it before the total lockdown. I was going down to matches, watching them live. But then Notts County have their own stream, it's an excellent stream as well. So I have watched all the games on there as well.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking, because I can't remember who it was that scored. I've just quickly Googled it trying to find it. But there was, I can't find
Elisha Sam against Oxford City.
Yeah, that goal.
They put it up for the Pushkas goal of the season, don't they?
Yeah, I couldn't find his name, but yeah,
Elijah Sam.
Okay, that's it. Yeah. So, were you watching that game live when it happened?
Yeah.
What was your immediate reaction?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen all sorts of goals, of overhead kicks. I have never in my career or any time seen a back heel from that height. It was an incredible goal.
Would you say, have you ever scored one better than that?
No. Well, how do you qualify a goal, whether it's a 6-inch tap in or a goal like that. You don't get
Yeah.
any extra for it. So in terms to, for me, a goal is a goal, and get on with it. But there are some fantastic goals, and Notts County this season have scored some fantastic goals. Not too many tap-ins, which has probably let them down. But that was one out of the blue.
A very good goal, to be fair.
Yeah.
So moving on to a more of a sort of sad matter, but obviously Notts County fell into National League, not last season, the season before that. Right, yeah, I think that's right. I'm not sure. So obviously you've been an ambassador for the club. I'm guessing you're at this point a supporter because of everything that happened. How disappointing we see the club fall into non-league, despite being, I believe, one of the founding members of the Football League.
Yeah, they were one of the 11 founder member clubs. They also were the oldest Football League club. They are currently the oldest professional football club. They're the oldest football club is Sheffield. They were born, I think it was 3 years before Notts County. Notts County were 1862. If Notts County can get promotion in 3 years, I think they will get the status back again. Other if they don't, it'll stay with Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest have currently got that status as the oldest Football League club. And your original question, was I disappointed? I felt really, really down. It was a flattening experience I'm also a member of the former Players Association at Notts County, and we've got a WhatsApp group, and the sadness that came through that side of it, lots of over the history, even in recent years, Howard Wilkinson took the team into the top flight. Neil Warnock took the team into the top flight, 30 years ago. So, all those players were still in regular contact, and it just was so deflating. So, I think we're just all hoping that things can be put right. The owners of this football club are doing a fantastic job. It's not an easy league by any means to get out of. I do happen to think that just over a year ago, the club was flying when Barrow went up, but we were only, I think, 6 or 7 points behind them with a game in hand. And I think we might have caught them there, but it didn't happen. The lockdown didn't help, certainly didn't help our cause. We've been getting good gates, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 and more for playing in the National League. We missed the crowd badly. You've seen that this season where the travelling teams are coming to Meadow Lane, up in their game, playing in a probably a better stadium. Our players are probably not performing as they should do. They're missing the crowd. It's just very, very difficult. We've had lots of issues with COVID this year, lots of games called off. We got 5 or 6 games behind other teams, and we're playing catch up. As I say, there's 2 games to be played now till the season finishes. So it's very tough. So I think we're all all football supporters are welcoming the days when we can get back in inside stadiums and watch football again and cheer the teams on.
Yeah, definitely.
It's also an interesting thought as well, because if you're looking to recruit players, it's the data or your stats are based on playing in front of crowds, and we're seeing this year that certain players are playing better without crowds. Then I read a great article about a year ago by Ian Rush, former Liverpool player, said he didn't think that he would be able to play or perform for Liverpool in empty stadiums. He said he wasn't a brilliant trainer, but he says when he ran out of that tunnel on a match day, that crowd lifted him and he couldn't wait to get out there. So it is very difficult for some some players, I would imagine, to lift the game. I think we're also watching football and we're seeing teams keeping the ball a lot more, passing it around where maybe they wouldn't with a crowd in there on the back shouting them to get it forward. So, yeah. Welcome those days back again.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think fans are massive, especially at a club like Notts County who have such a dedicated fan base. But we'll move back onto your playing career then, and slightly away from Notts County. Obviously, you made a move to Stockport, and I was surprised to see that you apparently changed to sort of a central defender at Stockport. What caused this?
First of all, it was a great shock when I got a call from the chairman of Notts County to go and see him. The manager was away on holiday in Cyprus, and I thought he was calling me to come down for offer me a new contract. I'd finished the season. I think I'd scored 13 goals that season, and he called me and he said, "I've just signed your replacement. I know you've got a year left on your contract, but I think it's best if you leave us. I don't want to see you playing in the reserves for the rest of your career here."
Oh, that's good.
Bang, that was a blow. Yeah. And he just gave me a piece of paper. He said, "These 4 clubs would like to sign you. I will talk to the owners of each club, and it's up to you. You go and sign for whoever you want." And it was Stockport, there was Hull City, Shrewsbury Town, and Oldham. Mike Summerby was manager of Stockport, and he was the first guy on the phone coming up and see us. And I met him and Freddie Pye, the chairman of the club, and they sold the club to me. Also, they said I could still live in Nottingham, and that was great because my father had passed away. And my mum was living on her own in Buxton. So Buxton was sort of halfway between Nottingham and Stockport. So it gave me an opportunity to go and stay with us here. And so that was my preferred choice. Yeah. So, went to Stockport. They played Friday nights because of the Manchester clubs playing on Saturdays. And it was great football night in Stockport. I enjoyed playing there. The chairman had invested quite a lot of money, brought in some senior players from likes of Manchester United, Man City. So we were expected to do better than what we did do. We played well enough against other fancy teams that were going to do well. We got good results. What let us down was playing against the unfancied teams, where I would imagine some players found it difficult to raise the game. I did okay in that first season. I think I got 24, 5 goals, something like that. I got player of the season. But also I suffered cartilage injury, and I was out for a time. I came back again, not quite ready, but Mike Summerby asked me to play at centre half, and that was how I got to play centre half when the centre half was injured, and I did pretty well, really. I think it was probably an advantage if you're a striker and you move to centre half. You know the runs that the guy that you're marking is going to make, so you're able to get there and sometimes take the ball off him before he got it. So I enjoyed it. It was I was coming towards the end of my career. It was a position that maybe is you can control the number of runs you have to make. But I think I probably played another 50 or 60 games at the end of my career for both Stockport and Wigan at centre half. Yeah,
fair enough. And obviously, while at Stockport, you have quite a few very good memories. One of them including that hat trick, where you were 4-1 down to Barnsley. You got your first career hat trick, I believe, or your only career hat trick. Sorry, where you netted 3 times in the last 10 minutes. What sort of spurred that, and was it just like, I don't know, I don't know how to word this. Sorry, but what gave you them? What just pushed you on to get those 3 goals? Was it just like the fans, or just the pressure which was on you?
Yeah, I did get a second hat trick. That was at Wigan Athletic, where at Scunthorpe when Ian Botham made his debut for Scunthorpe. But the guy who was marking me for Barnsley that day was Mick McCarthy.
Oh,
The Cardiff manager.
Yeah, Cardiff. Yeah.
And whenever we meet each other, he usually gives me a mouthful because the manager of Barnsley was Alan Clark. Do you remember Alan Clark, who played for Leeds United? Mick Jones, Alan Clark in the big Leeds United team. And Barnsley were going really well that season, and they'd gone into 4-1 lead. It was something like 10 minutes to go. And I collected the ball about 25 yards out, and I turned Mick, pushed it forward and let drive, and it found the corner of the net. So it was 4-2. So we're still not thinking we're in it. And then a cross ball comes in from the right-hand side, and I've headed it in the far corner, and it's 4-3. And you can see they're getting a bit edgy and stuff. Hey, come on, all that was going on. And then we also had another player called George Armstrong, who played for Arsenal on the left wing. He crossed the ball in from the other side, and I got another header. So it was 4-4. And I've actually hit the crossbar right at the very end of the game. We could have won. Oh. So yeah, it was a fantastic fight back. The supporters of Stockport created a song that when I go up there, even now that they sing it. Les Brad scored a hat trick at Barnsley. It's something for them to remember. And it's obviously a great memory for myself.
Yeah, and I'm sure another really good memory for you was scoring at Highbury against Arsenal for Stockport. Playing at such a massive against a massive club like Arsenal. I don't even know what Highbury looks like, to be honest, because obviously now they play at the Emirates. But how good of a feeling was that to score against a massive club like Arsenal?
It was fantastic score game. It wasn't at Highbury. It was at Edgeley Park in the League Cup, and it was they'd gone 1-0 up, and I got the equaliser, and I was on cloud 9. But they did manage to get a winner before the end of the game. But we did ourselves great credit. They were a good side at the team, and to only lose 2-1, we put on a good show that night.
And then obviously you moved to Wigan came about. So sorry, how did it come
about? Basically, I'd had 3 years at Stockport, and the manager had told me that they were not going to re-sign me. They didn't have the money. The chairman of Stockport, Freddie Pye, who'd signed me, he'd moved to Wigan Athletic earlier in that season. And one of my friends, Larry Lloyd, who played for Nottingham Forest, European Cup winner, he'd moved to Wigan Athletic as player manager. Okay. And the very last game of that, I think it was the 80-81 season, was Wigan Athletic versus Stockport County. And I'm playing for Stockport, and Larry Lloyd is marking me. And during that game, he asked me what I was going to be doing the next season, offered me terms to play for them next season. And when the game finished and we shook hands, people thought we were shaking on the game, but we were shaking on a deal to go to Wigan the next year. So, it all finished amicably at Stockport, and I had a fresh challenge playing for Wigan.
And obviously you went on to gain promotion with Wigan, but I want to focus more on that win you got over Chelsea. So how good of a feeling was that?
We had at Wigan a number of players who'd been cast off from, shall we say, the Liverpool area. Mickey Quinn had come from around there, and we had a decent team, and we were starting to put on a run. We were up at near the top of the league, and we'd drawn Chelsea at home in the League Cup, and we beat them 4-2? Can't remember.
Yeah,
We
4-2.
got 4-1, 4-2, and I managed to get a goal. It was a wonderful feeling, and we filled the stadium, and we were on a roll. Things were in those days, or probably just a little prior to that run of form. If you'd mentioned Wigan, you were talking about Wigan Rugby League Club, not the football team. In fact, on the day, my very first day, when I drove up to Wigan for training, I stopped and asked directions to the ground, and those directions took me to Central Park, Wigan Rugby League. That's how much the local people thought of Wigan Football Club in those days. But we built a reputation for ourselves. Beat Chelsea. We put on a great show in the next round. We were drawn at home to Aston Villa. We were drawing 1-1 till Peter With scored a late goal. I was marking him. I was playing centre half in those days, and he got in front of me and just beat me to the header. It was a great show. We had a good cup run, and we went on to get promotion that season. So it was a wonderful experience.
So I want to also quickly look at sort of this what's going on right now with Wigan, because they have financial problems. Looks to be getting relegated to League Two. How are you to see this to one of your former clubs?
Yeah, I'm still in contact with one or two of the guys up there, and it's a great worry. And with Wigan, with a number of clubs, of what's going on in football, with the finances in the Premier League, it's causing chaos. The money that is being paid out to players, and if we're not careful, we're going to lose a number of clubs in the league. And I think it's probably a good time for the FA to get hold of this, get a grip of it, and sort it out before we lose too many clubs.
Yeah, definitely. And then from Wigan, you made that loan move to Bristol Rovers. We talked about everything before, but obviously this put you in the Guinness World Records. So how strange was that to see your name in the Guinness World Records book?
Yeah, I'd been told in my second year at Wigan, Larry Lloyd, shortly before he got the sack, actually, that Freddie Pye had left the club, and things weren't good on the finance side, and they were asking to try and offload players. And Larry said to me, "Would you be happy enough to go out on loan if the situation arises?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm happy with that." And then he said that Bobby Gould at Bristol Rovers had been in touch. If you fancied it, you can go down there on a month's loan. This was in December. And I went down on New Year's Eve and signed. And the following day was Cardiff City away in the league. And I managed to score a goal in a 2-1 defeat, I think it was. I know we lost. I think it was 2-1. But during the course of the game, in the last 10 minutes, I had trouble with my hamstring and had to come off. And I spent the remainder of the month having treatment with a view to signing for Bristol Rovers till the end of the season. And it was feeling good. And then there was a reserve team fixture against Reading in that final week. I went and scored 2 goals. We were winning 2-0 with 20 minutes to go, and then my hamstring went full completely, and that was it. And Bobby Gould says, "Sorry, we can't do anything about it." And I was just sent back to Wigan, and basically that was it till the end of the season. Really, I didn't figure anymore. Just bit of training here and there, and that was the end of my full-time career at the age of 36.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask about that, because obviously you see nowadays most footballers do turn into managers or coaches or scouts. Did you have any interest in potentially ever going into management?
Whilst I was at Stockport County and they sacked the manager, Mike Summerby, I was asked to take on the role as of caretaker manager.
Yeah.
Which I did, and worked with the players. I think there was 5 matches that I was the caretaker manager. Lost the first one. I think we drew the second one, won a couple, draw another one, and being at the other side of the touchline, watching the group, the team play, when you'd work with them all through the week on the training ground, and then watching the match and thinking, we haven't done that. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
It came home to me that I wasn't cut out to be a manager. I think I might have made a very good assistant manager, but the first person that you want to pick on your team is the player that's not quite good enough.
Yeah.
And the player that you don't want to pick, he's your best player. Am I making sense to you? It's such a strange game, and the successful managers that I got to know had a little bit of shall we say, a strangeness about them. Jimmy Sirell was a guy. It's quite a strange guy, but no, it's a very difficult job to get that group of players. And as I say, in the days that I'm talking about, small squads of players, 15 or so players, basically the same nationality. This day and age, there are groups of players from all corners of the world. It must be so difficult to get them all thinking along the same lines. Very difficult.
Yeah, but you did eventually end up publishing your book, The Far Post. What inspired you to make a book? Was it just maybe fans asking you to tell your story, or did you just maybe, I'm not too sure, just want to tell your story, I guess?
I probably turned down the opportunity of an autobiography at least half a dozen times. And then I happened to be playing golf at my golf club, Rillington Golf Club, with a friend called Terry Bowles. He'd been the press manager at Notts County. There weren't media managers in those days for probably 30 years. He was there when I was playing. He's retired now with the same age, and I happened to be saying to him that it's 50 years since I signed for Notts later this year. And as we moved on the next hole, he said, there's a book in there somewhere. I said, don't you start as well. And then each hole as we moved on, it came up again. And then when we finished, he says, let's have a cup of tea and have a natter. And we had 3 meetings over a drink, and eventually we shook hands on a book and the way that I wanted the story to be told. I wanted it to be a football story, not a story about all the airs and graces. I wanted it to be purely football, and we got on the same wavelength, and we did a chapter at a time. That Terry would do a chapter, he'd send it across to me that I'd read, give it consent, and then move on again. And I was really happy the way that it was portrayed in the end, and it went on. And as we talk at this moment, we've sold over 1,600 books, far more than I ever expected. When it went out, I was just to be very, very happy that if we could just cover costs, but it's been fantastic. And no, I'm very proud, and it's told my life story in football. Yeah,
well, when I was doing research, I saw a lot of people giving plaudits to it, so it must be a very good book. But what I also noticed was that a lot of Notts County fans know you as Sir Les. So what I was doing before I actually started this podcast was Googling to see if you'd been knighted or anything like that, or if it's just Notts County fans. How do you feel about him calling you Sir Les?
Well, that's born out of playing days, 10 years. And then following the end of my career, I was asked to go back to work at the club.
Yeah.
In fundraising. And it was done through lottery sales, and I got quite a few supporters to sell lottery tickets, and we became friends. And then moving on through that, I worked on the commercial side of the football club, and then so they've seen me around there for. Except for 5 years. And I also worked for Forest for 12 years as well, which didn't go down particularly well. But I have been enrolled into the club's Hall of Fame. So they're classed as legends if you get onto there as well. So I think it was just one of the supporters tagged me with the name Sir Les, and it just moved on from there. So I'm a face that they see around the club, face that they can associate with, to talk about good times with Jimmy Sirell, and then when I retired from football, the Neil Warnock era, Howard Wilkinson. So I've got a good knowledge of lots of players, and those players are now part of our former players association. So it's been a huge part of my life, really, living in Nottingham and Notts County Football Club.
Yeah. And so the last sort of thing from me then, I ask everyone who comes to the podcast this, and I'm pretty sure I'm already going to know your answer, but what team do you support?
Arsenal.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
I'll give you the reason why. I was born and bred in Buxton. My parents were Londoners, both born and raised in Essex, both Arsenal fans who moved to Buxton. And that's where all my family was born and bred. Each year, Buxton is 30 miles away from Manchester. So we would have a trip to see the cricket at Old Trafford. We'd have a trip to see Arsenal play at Main Road, Arsenal play at Old Trafford. And I got brought up to be an Arsenal fan. So I now first results that I look for will be Notts County, Arsenal, Stockport, Wigan, in that sort of order.
Yeah, to be fair, I thought you were going to say Notts County, but I bet that goal that you scored against them for Stockport were even more bittersweet then. But yeah, I think that's all we've got time for this week. So as usual, I'd like to thank sorry, just check on something. I'd just like to thank my guest, Les BRADD. Les, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much for asking me, Gabriel. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
No worries. I enjoyed it too. And we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.